What does WCS stand for, Dustin? It stands for the worst case scenario.
Originating from deep inside the Rocky Mountains, transported through the power of the internet, and arriving inside your tiny earbuds. It's the Appraiser Coach Podcast, helping appraisers increase their efficiency, quality, and make more money. Here's the guy who makes it his life's mission to create value for real estate appraisers nationwide. Your host and the Appraiser Coach, Dustin Harris.
What should we call this? The great slowdown of 2022? I don't know. They don't want to call it a recession on the news, so I guess it's not a recession. But I know most appraisers are feeling it. They're feeling a slowdown. I want to share with you a principle that I started utilizing years ago in my life, and not just in appraisal, but just in life itself. And I'm telling you, it has greatly, greatly blessed my life. First, I want to pause and remind you that we're sponsored by OREP Insurance. OREP, of course, is keeping you safe, keeping you out of trouble, covering you when mistakes are made. It's a great company, folks. Great company to work with. Check them out by going to their website at orep.org. That's OREP.org. And we're sponsored by Alamode Software. Alamode is keeping you efficient, keeping you working smarter so you don't have to work harder. Alamode.com. It's ALAMODE.com. All right, folks, so I want to chat with you about a practice that I utilize a lot in my private coaching, but more importantly, I use this in my own life. And it allows me to sleep a lot light. And what I mean by that is, first of all, by the way, folks, I've never had a real problem with sleep. For some reason, it drives my wife nuts, right? I'll say goodnight to her, and literally, at least the way she describes it, 7 seconds later, I'm asleep, I'm snoring. And that's probably true. I don't lay there for a long time. When it's time to go to sleep, I turn off the lights, I lay down, I put my head down, and I'm gone. Now, that's not always true when there's stress going on. That's not always true when things are happening that are causing me to be worried, right? And I think all of us are like that way. That's just human nature. All of us are in this situation where we have to do what's best, but we don't know what the ifs are going to bring. The what ifs is what I call them, right? What if this, what if that? And that can be paralyzing to anybody, and especially to a business owner who the decisions you make, especially on a larger scale, right? Whether to hire or not, whether to expand or not, whether to change your prices or not, whether to sign up for coaching services with the Appraiser Coach or not. I mean, these are major decisions that can affect your livelihood. And rightfully so. We shouldn't make those decisions in a vacuum. We should take in all the information that we possibly can and make decisions accordingly. But it can be a scary, scary thing to make these decisions and not know the outcome. Many of you right now are going through a difficult time because things have slowed down. You're not used to worrying about the volume. Now, some of you have been in this business many, many years. Some of you have been through, like I have, a couple of cycles, right? Real estate cycles, the ups and the downs, right? The natural one that comes to mind for Idaho, it was in 2010, but most of the world, it was 2008, 2009. But this world of things have slowed down, right? Construction has stopped. Foreclosures have started. Where we were just bouncing around and just doing, great in 2006, 2007, all of a sudden that changed dramatically for many of us. And the question is, what next? And we go through this process of not knowing the answer to that. And you can use, all kinds of metaphors and sayings like, hey, when one door closes, another one opens. But my gosh, folks, it's awful dark between the two doors. When that door closes and you're in the dark and you don't know where the other door is, sure, it'll open eventually. You'll find it. Fumble around for long enough and you're going to find a doorknob and you're going to open that door. But number one, you don't know how long that's going to take. And number two, you don't know what's on the other side of that door. And so in my private coaching right now, I'm having a lot of discussions with some scared people, frankly. Some people who are coming to me and saying, Dustin, I don't know what to do here. I built up my business and it was busy in 2020, 2021, first part of 2020, 2022. And all of a sudden that dropped off almost a sheer cliff, almost overnight. And it can be a challenge. But folks, it's this what if mentality that strangles us, that paralyzes us, right? They sometimes call it the paralysis of analysis problem, that we are so worried about the what ifs that we don't move forward at all, right? Imagine that you're on a mountain and you're scaling that mountain. I'm not a mountain climber, so, take this analogy for what it's worth, but you're halfway up the mountain and something happens. Maybe the clouds roll in and you wonder, is there going to be a storm? What if? What if there's a storm? What would I do? Should I keep going up? Should I go down? Should I stay put? Should I make camp? Should I make a fire? Should I go back to my car? What should I do? And you end up doing nothing because you have so many things to think about, right? The old rabbit analogy. There's so many opportunities out there that you don't take advantage of any of them, but it's the opposite of that. There's so many fears and worries that you don't know what to do. You don't know where to go. And it's scary, folks. And I'm telling you, and I've said this before, it's been a while, but I'll share it with you again. Fear is a wonderful motivator, but it's a horrible problem solver. Fear motivates us, right? The fear of what if allows us and pushes us to do things. For example, to give you very simple, the fear of losing everything causes us to save money. I have a savings account that's got a great deal of money in it right now, and that allows me to sleep better at night, knowing that I've got that there, right? And I did that out of fear. Now, I didn't actually do it out of fear, but the fear motivated me to do something about it, and that's the difference, right? Don't make decisions based on fear. If you do, you'll make mistakes. If you do, you'll run the wrong way. If you do, you won't analyze things properly. But the fear can absolutely and should, in many cases, be a catalyst for movement. I mean, that is bred into us. That is part of our DNA. That is part of evolution, right? You're walking through the grass as a primitive person, and you hear something that could be a tiger. That fear allows you to stop and analyze what to do next, and that can save your life. And it's the same in business. It really is. The fear of the unknown, that snake in the grass, if you will, allows you to say, okay, what next, Dustin? And that's really where I'm going today with this. That's really where I want to make the point. The point is this, right? It's what I call the WCS. What does WCS stand for, Dustin? It stands for the worst case scenario. The worst case scenario. I want to share with you how understanding the WCS can allow you to sleep well at night and to make decisions that will be beneficial to you and your life. First, I want to pause here and remind you that we're sponsored by OREP Insurance. OREP is the E&O of choice for me, folks. It was the choice of my firm for many years prior to moving to True Footage, and it's also the choice of True Footage. Why? It's the best, folks. They're not just an insurance company, folks. They are a broker. What does that mean? That means that they have the right and ability and privilege of shopping around. That means that the company that I'm with today doesn't necessarily have to be the actual insured the insurance company that I'm using tomorrow. That means that I'm going to get the best deal, the best price, the best coverage because OREP is my broker. OREP shops around. They know me. They know my situation. They know my background. They know my business. They know the volume that we have, and they can shop that to a number of different insurance companies. Folks, think about how much time that would take to do on your own. And it doesn't cost you any more to have OREP do it. In fact, it costs you less. OREP.org, that's OREP.org. We're sponsored, of course, by Alamode. Alamode software is helping appraisers to do more. I recently did a webinar with my good friend Jim Stafford. By the way, it's still the most popular webinar on my website right now. Okay, and you can find out more by going to the product section. Okay, and what is the name of the webinar? It is Unleashing the Power of Total. Folks, I'm telling you, the reason this is such a powerful webinar is because it gets into the nitty-gritty about what Alamode can do that none of the other software providers can do. I'm talking about automation. I'm talking about worksheets that allow you write these things in their macros to where you can click a button, right? Let's give the well button, right? You click on that it has a private well, and that will automatically write and put in a statement in your addendum indicating that private wells are not uncommon in the area, don't affect value, blah, blah, whatever you want to put in there. It's customizable, right? That's not something that comes with the program. Unleashing the power of total is unleashing the power of total. You writing custom stuff that happens every time you do an appraisal. It's absolutely incredible. And it's Alamode that allows you to do that. Not the other companies, folks. If you're with anybody else, you don't have this power. Check them out. Go to alamode.com. It's ALAMODE or 800-ALAMODE. All right. Welcome back to the program, folks. I want to share with you, and please don't take this the wrong way, okay? And I mean it. I'm giving you the ability to sleep well at night, okay? And you'll know what I mean by that in just a moment. But I want to pick up where I left off at the break. The WCS, the worst case scenario. We talk about this a lot. in my coaching. You'll get to know my language, the tribal language that we use, right? There's a lot of terms that we use in that coaching that you'll get used to because it's just shortcut, right? And we can be talking, and you can be sharing with me the decision that you have to make, and I will say, okay, Jane, what's your WCS? And you'll know what I mean, right? What's the worst case scenario? Folks, this is a principle that I've used not just in my appraisal business, but in my life, in relationships, in health, in you name it, right? It's when I start to find myself paralyzed by all of the analysis that can be done on the what ifs, right? Let's give a business example, okay? Let's say that you were going to open up a roadside coffee shop, okay? And you start to think, well, this is a great idea. I know this corner. Lots of people travel this corner, and there's no coffee within 2 miles of this corner, and I think this would be great. And you start to go all through these things, and then what inevitably happens is human nature, right? The what ifs start to sink in. Well, what if they redo the road and this isn't a popular corner anymore? What if the costs are too high? What if inflation continues to go up? What if people stop drinking coffee? What if, you name it, all of these things are going to come flooding into your life because you are about to do something that's quote unquote risky. Folks, the same is true for your appraisal business, right? So this is the practice that I have you go through. And again, this is something that I do in my own life as well. And it's to go through and actually practice developing the WCS. Right? This practice of developing the WCS basically looks like this. It's you sitting down and saying, okay, Dustin, sure, maybe there is some trepidation in doing this. Maybe there is some fear. Maybe there is some risk. Maybe that risk is real, right? Maybe you really could fill in the blank. So then I ask you, what is the WCS? If the WCS is blank, okay, let's say, let's go back to our analogy, okay, the coffee shop analogy. WCS is I'm just going to throw one out. You put all this money, this time, effort, whatever. You buy your booth, you fix it up, you put it on the corner, and it burns down. Okay, and you didn't have insurance. Okay, the worst case scenario is you've dumped all of this stuff into it, and it doesn't fly. It doesn't work. It's not successful. It burns down. The city comes in and says no more coffee shops on this corner. Right? They shut you down. Whatever. The absolute worst case scenario is fill in the blank. Now that's not where you end. That's not what helps you to sleep better at night. That would help you to sleep worse, right? Because now you're worried about, oh my gosh, what if that really does happen? That would suck. But folks, here's the problem. And this is the difference between successful people and unsuccessful people. Unsuccessful people stop with oh, that would suck. Period. They put a period at the end of that sentence. If this happened, that would suck. And that's what keeps them up at night. But the WCS practice, the procedure of going through this, right? The principle here is that you don't stop with that would suck, but is where you go. So it looks like this. If this happened, that would suck, but I would fill in the blank. What does that look like for you? If you open up a coffee shop and you dump all your money into this and you're just convinced it's going to work and then it burns down, you don't have insurance, that would suck, but I would what? What is the fill in the blank, right? What? I don't know what it is. I'm coming up with stuff at the top of my head. This is something you would have to sit down and actually figure out. I mean, let's think through this for a second. Well, worst case scenario is that it burns down. I don't have anything there. Okay. I would raise money and do it again. I would hurt for a while, but I would pick up and do something different. I would, I don't know. Right. The idea here is that you go through the practice. My purpose in today's podcast is not to come up with the best solution for if your coffee shop burned down. It's to teach you the principle and practice that I utilize in my life to deal with the what if scenarios, right? So I'll give you a true life example of what I'm dealing with right now in my life, right? You know that over the last couple of years, I've invested heavily in short-term rentals. And there's a big across the country backlash in many corners to short-term rentals. Some neighbors don't like them. Hotels are lobbying against them. Lots of city governments are against them and giving regulation. There's a lot of reasons why I could sit down and go, oh my gosh, I put all this money, this time, this effort, this borrowed money into something that could be shut down. What's the worst case scenario? Worst case scenario is there's no more short-term rentals, right? Then what? Well, I'll tell you what my then what is. It's twofold. Number one, I've tried to buy properties in areas that could be successful as long-term rentals, not as successful, but could be successful at least so I can pay my mortgage and my insurance and the upkeep. At least. So when I'm looking at a short-term rental situation, I for example, there is a building in Las Vegas, the MGM, who does short-term rentals. You buy it for the purpose of short-term rentals, and there's no other option. That's what you do. Folks, as much as I would love to have a short-term rental in Vegas, I'm not doing that. Because there's no what if. There's no option. Now, a property like one that I have near Yellowstone, could absolutely, in today's age, by the way, I bought it on a road that was year-round. Even though we get a lot of snow, it's year-round. It has high-speed internet, not just a little, piddly thing, but high-speed internet. It is comfortable. It is safe. It is in a beautiful part of the world, and I absolutely feel like I could rent this to anybody who works from home long-term. That's one of my what-ifs. One of my other what-ifs is I've got a lot of money in savings. I've got enough money in savings that I could pay all of my mortgages for 1.5 to 2 years if it didn't rent at all. Now, that's not even going to happen, right? But again, this is about the worst-case scenario. If I could not rent out any of my properties for 2 years, could I survive? And the answer is yes. I wouldn't want to. I wouldn't want to dip into that savings, but it's there. And that allows me to sleep well at night. Because in 2 years, folks, I guarantee I can figure something out. I guarantee I can find a better solution to the worst case scenario. Dustin, what does this have to do with business? It has everything to do with your appraisal business in this sense. Whatever it is that is paralyzing you, whatever it is that is keeping you tied to that chair, whatever it is that's keeping you from moving forward. A couple weeks ago, we talked about hiring during a slowdown, right? Same principle. What's the worst case scenario? You have to let them go in 3 months. It doesn't work out. Things don't pick back up, or you can't utilize them in such a way that it fills the vacuum like you thought. What would you do in the worst case scenario, the WCS? I'm telling you, folks, this will change your life. I literally tell you this. I'm the type of person that can fall asleep fast, but about 3 a.m, I wake up. Too much information here, but I toddle off to the potty, right, and then come back to bed. And a lot of times, that act alone, coming back to bed, I start to think about the what ifs in my life. I start to think about this, I start to think about that, and all of a sudden, the next thing you know, it's 5:30 in the morning, and I haven't gone back to sleep because I've got so many what ifs going in my head. What allows me to go back to sleep after getting up at 3 a.m. is this practice of worst case scenario. Is the ability to sit down and say, okay, what is the worst thing that could happen? If you now solve that problem, if this happened, then what? All of a sudden, I don't have to stay up at night because I have a solution for even the worst problems. Hope that helps you, folks. Would love to help you through this practice as well. We do this in our mastermind. We've gone through the WCS a lot. If you're sitting around that table and you've got something you're dealing with, a lot of times Coach Dustin will say, hey, Jane, what's your WCS? And everybody around that table is going to help you through that WCS. It's an awesome, awesome group. Would love to have you be a part of it. Find out more at my website, theappraisercoach.com/memberships.
You've been listening to the Appraiser Coach podcast with Dustin Harris. If you like what you hear, please give us a 5-star rating and post a short review on iTunes. For more in-depth insider information on how you can make more money as a real estate appraiser, visit theappraisercoach.com and sign up for the All-Star team today. Thanks for joining us. And now, get out there and create some value.